Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Fallen World. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a weekly series I do, podcast, whatever you want to call it. Every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, there will be a new episode premiering. You can comment in the live chat. It'll be interactive. If you don't leave any comments, then there won't be a live chat. And that's not really up to me. But for those of you watching live, definitely let me know. And for those of you watching afterwards, leave a comment. Let me know you're watching. Let me know what you think. I like to be interactive. This is the second part of a trilogy that I'm starting the series off with, what I like to call the Triple P: Philosophy, Politics, and Psychology. Last week we talked about philosophy, and every week there's going to be sort of a guideline for me to follow in the description, and you can follow along with me. I have a paper in front of me, and sometimes I might read a line and then elaborate on it. Other times I might read the entire thing and then go back and reread it and elaborate on it as I'm going back through it. Today, that's how I'm going to do it, because this one is written in a way where I kind of have to read it all at once. So I feel like I'm going to burp. That was nothing. Anyway, this is about politics, and it's a little bit of a history lesson, a little bit of everything, really, but I want to focus on the main point, so I'm not going to get distracted. I'm just going to read this. You can open up the description and follow along with me. It's what's in the quotation marks, which I'm sure you figured that out. The human experience, by the way, this is going to make a lot more sense if you've seen last week's video. So if you have any questions, you can ask away in the comments, or you can check out the previous video. And if that still doesn't answer your question, still leave a comment. The human experience is about learning to choose love over fear. So the human condition is one of chaos and confusion. It's important to know that you are not your thoughts, and you are not your body. You are not the decisions other people make, and it's not your job to control anyone. It's only your job to live by example, as you remember who you are outside of your human condition. You're water in a bottle, you're not the bottle itself. Superiority is an illusion. We all came from the same place, but we multiplied and we scattered. We built our own societies, and we became competitive with one another. As time passed and technology increased, the separate worlds we built became connected. No matter where you are, there's a good chance that your outlook was tainted by dogma of some kind. Parents, religion, science, school, and even your government will not always tell you the whole truth. If your leaders don't want you to learn something, they'll make sure you don't learn it. It's as simple as that. The rich and powerful still grew up in the same corrupt system. The only difference is that they either had access to a superior education, or they're just naturally better at making money. That natural talent is valuable and would be useful in a community. It's only a problem when fear gets involved and spirit is cut out of the equation. Our ancestors are responsible for the mess we have today, and everyone alive today is a victim. But the question remains the same. Will you choose love or fear? So, some of you may be thinking, how is this about politics? Some of you may be thinking, no shit, Sherlock, I already knew all that. And some of you may just be confused. And maybe some of you get it. Maybe some of you already know what I'm about to tell you, and that's great. But, still worth watching, because you don't know if you know it until I say it. Anyway, so the first line, the human experience is about choosing love over fear, is directly related to last week's video. And the human condition is one of chaos and confusion. What that means is basically the universe, think of it as this fabric. and that you're woven into the fabric of the universe. You can't really imagine the universe from an outside perspective. You can't picture the universe and look at it from the outside and say, I'm not part of this, because you are part of it and you'll always be part of it. Superiority is the idea that things in the universe can be separate, that something can be better than another thing. Well, in order for something to be better, there needs to be some type of goal, because otherwise things are just kind of there and it's all meaningless. For example, a room filled with people who all think that they're better than each other and fighting each other, after they all kill each other, nobody's better. It's just a bunch of corpses that are just going to decay and eventually become part of the earth again, and everything gets recycled. So it's like everything is just kind of sitting there innocent. Nothing really has meaning. And you can even look at the same thing. Two people can come look out the window and see the exact same morning, and one can say, what a miserable, disgusting, rainy day, and the other one can say, what a beautiful day where the flowers are getting watered. You know what I mean? Like, there's no real way to look at it. It's just, it is what it is. It's minding its own business, and then we come over and we apply meaning to it. So that's where better comes from. Better comes from our interpretation. So you could say, I'm better than you. Okay, well, my question is, in what way? And at what are you better? Are you better at running? Maybe you are. Maybe you're faster than me. Are you better at thinking? Maybe you're smarter than me. But are you better than me in general? No, because we're the same. We're all cut from the same cloth. We're all part of the fabric of the universe, and nothing is ever going to change that. So the problem is that we get this idea in our head that we're better than each other, and that comes from fear, because it's about control. It's sort of believing that you're separate from the universe, and the universe is not supporting you, the universe is not part of you, you're on your own, and you're supposed to go your own way and do your own thing. Well, no one really wants to do that, because what does that feel like? That feels like being a child without a mother. That feels like raising yourself, and no one wants to do that. You do that because you think you have to. You do that because you're afraid of what would happen if you didn't. And you kind of get stuck in survival mode when you live with that mentality, which is what we covered last week. But it transitions into politics, because what happens from that point is you start you're going to go in one of two directions. You're going to conform and just do what everyone else is doing because you don't have the energy to fight. Maybe you don't have access to the right information. Maybe you're just not a natural born leader, and that's totally okay. That's just not your purpose to serve here. You're here to do something else, and you should be valued for what you can do. And yet everyone in most societies is expected to just do the same thing and not really utilize their unique abilities. Then you could say that some societies do try to do that, but they don't do it well enough, because everyone's coming up in the same school system, and people aren't really given a unique education to fully unlock their unique abilities and stay on track with what their actual role is. And that's just unfortunate. But how it happened, like I said, is that it's our ancestors. Nobody alive today is directly responsible for this, but the people alive today, they continue it and they expand it. They make it more chaotic and hard to reverse. And they're not really doing it because they're evil or anything. Even their ancestors aren't evil, but they just don't know any better. So what is evil anyway? If you want to give evil a word, or if you want to give the word evil a meaning, a place where it's appropriate to use it, you could use it on someone who continuously, no matter what the circumstance, will choose fear over love, will choose to believe that they're alone and they're fighting this battle by themselves and that they're the most important thing in the world at the end of the day. They're never going to make a decision that is out of genuine empathy. And in their life in general, they just focus only on themselves. And ultimately, it's at their own expense, because it's sort of like if you go into someone else's board game and you start running around saying, I'm going to win. And you're like, you didn't even ask for the rules. You're not going to win. You don't even know what the game is. You don't know what the objective is. Well, I'll make up my own objective. Okay, well then you're not going to win. You're just going to realize that you ran into a wall. So it's pointless. And the idea that you can hurt somebody else to help yourself, like I said, we're all just water in an ocean, but in a bottle. Imagine if two bottles of water were fighting with each other, forgetting that on the inside they're just water. You can't hurt somebody else without hurting yourself because you're all the same thing. So it's an illusion, and when you start doing these things, you're feeding into an illusion, and you're feeding insanity, and you're losing touch with reality, and you're losing touch with spirit, with the universe. I call the universe spirit because I think of it as as an entity, as sort of that still small voice within us. Um, and I think it's a lot more clear and easy to understand if you just call it spirit, which is another thing that I mentioned in my little paragraph that I wrote here. So that's what that means for anyone who didn't already know. But yeah, so superiority doesn't exist. When you start believing that it does, you're separating yourself from reality and you're going to go insane. And you could call that evil if you want. If it hurts people, if it's really problematic in a big way, and they still refuse to change, then they're gone. They're buried in dark energy, which is fiction. It's not truth. Truth is light and empathy and love. And then when you separate from that truth, that's darkness. Those are the two polar opposite ends. And when you bury yourself in that much darkness, you're feeding chaotic energy, dark energy, energy that isn't based in truth or reality, and you just get lost in it, and then you lose yourself. And you have to look at these people with empathy and say, this is a tragedy. This is really sad that they chose this and they locked themselves into this pattern. And I'm sure there are a ton of factors that are contributing to how hard it is for them to come out of it. But I cannot do it for them. They have to choose it. And as long as they're not choosing it, we have to continue holding them accountable. But we don't have to judge them. We don't have to hate them. That's not our role. For the same reason that we shouldn't be feeding superiority, when you start giving into hate and judgment, you're just becoming part of the problem and you're really no better. You're forgetting that we're all the same. You're forgetting that we're all connected. And people are so judgmental and so self-righteous. And I'm going to talk more about that in next week's video, which is about psychology. We're getting into the roots of things and why people do the things that they do. But right now we're just talking about the social issues and politics in general. So I think the people who were naturally better at making money, naturally better at, using critical thinking skills, planning, and, spending wisely, a long time ago in like a smaller tribe, before like technology and actual money existed, that person would have been really valuable and helpful to the community. But as we expanded and things got more complicated, that type of person just ended up realizing, basically just chose fear over love, realized that instead of being the helpful one, using their skills to help the community, they said, why not just help myself? And trick these dumbass other people into making life easier for me. And then that mentality expanded, and then it just ended up becoming something that influences almost everyone in the rest of the world. And that's why here in the US at least, rich people really don't pay taxes as much as lower class people or poor people, however you want to think of it, middle class, lower class. The higher up you are, the less you're really going to have to give back, because that's the system that your ancestors have built for you, basically, and everyone else just has to pay for it. So the way that it generally works is that you continue working, you go to school, you get your education teaches you to be a worker, gives you just enough information to get your work done, but not enough information to actually get in touch with spirit and with your roots and your actual life purpose. It doesn't help you to be healthy because this is the main thing that you have to remember. It's all about making money. And if people were in touch with the truth and with their health, and people understood all of the different medical alternatives to be healthy, then suddenly think of all the things all the problems that would cause. Think of the doctors, think of the police. If suddenly the U.S., by the way, has terrible mental health. There's a huge mental health crisis in the world in general, but especially in the U.S. And I see that the most because that's where I live. It's where I grew up. But if we suddenly started taking care of our minds genuinely, it would break a lot of these people, because people like doctors and things that are really like, we have a for-profit medical system. They literally depend on people needing their assistance in order to make money and survive. And it becomes less about survival and more about making money at a certain point. But you have to remember that it's a system, and not everyone who's part of that system is aware that they're part of it or is aware of the damage it's causing. Sometimes the head of the system knows what they're doing, but they don't really make that clear to everyone else. They just say, do this, and then people, the sheep, just do it, pretty much. And they don't stop and wonder. And I hate to call people sheep, but I mean, I don't really know what else to say. They're just doing whatever they're told and not questioning it because they don't have the energy to. We exhaust people. We wear them out. School is meant to make you submissive and compliant. It scares you from taking risks and asking questions. You're going to get in trouble. Just do what you're told. Stay in line. Don't be a risk taker. Don't be a troublemaker. If you're a troublemaker, we're going to break you and we're going to make sure that you don't go anywhere in life. And they do that quite well. I think somebody's coming out of their room and maybe going to the bathroom. I'm filming this in the middle of the night, so there are going to be noises like that, and we're just going to ignore them because I refuse to edit these videos. It's way too much effort, and if I think I'm going to have to edit them, it's going to scare me away from doing it. So that's why I originally did this as live streams, and since I can't necessarily always do a live stream because I have a job with kind of an unpredictable schedule, I might be at work when I have to do this, and I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to do it live. So it's just easier to do it as a premiere. This way I'm never late, and it's going to feel like a live stream because of the live chat in the premiere and because these types of things aren't edited out. So I'm sorry if that makes this less of a pleasant experience for you, but at least you know I'm not hiding anything from you, because this is pretty open. I couldn't really plan around somebody going to the bathroom anyway. There's just no way around that. And I have to do this in the middle of the night too because everybody makes noise. There's never a time when there's peace down here. And I have to do it here because I have a table for my paper and it's just the best. I like this background. I get to sit. If I'm doing it in my room, I'm standing. So, sorry, I'm wasting time. I don't want to keep you here too long. I've been going for 18 minutes and 49 seconds. So, yeah. We come into the world and we're broken by school, and then we go out into the world and we just don't have the energy at that point to fight. We have this fear within us, and that's already bad mental health. And then there's the people, the rich people. Maybe they have a more expensive education. Maybe, like I said, they're just natural quick thinkers, and no matter how hard they try to break you, they're just not going to do it. Maybe they got lucky and they just won the lottery and they keep getting lucky. But those people will get poor pretty quick because of the way the system is set up. If you want to get rich and stay rich, in the US at least, you have to be really like brutal and ruthless. You can't have empathy because in order to stay rich, you have to just accept how messed up this system is. And you have to be okay with the fact that it's in your favor at other people's expense. And a lot of people just are okay with that. And for the same reason that they just are too lazy to care. Because, like I said in this paragraph, we are still part of the system. My favorite comedian talked about politics, and he said he doesn't like he doesn't hate politicians the way that everybody complains about politicians, because he says, where do you think these politicians come from? They didn't pass through a membrane from another reality. They come from the US and all the things we have to offer here. Garbage in, garbage out. That's it. And that's really all it comes down to. This is just all we have to offer. And it's a mess. But the system is the mess. We need to stop hating people and start being angry at the system that's in place and stop focusing on who's responsible for it so we can deliver justice. And this mentality, there is a lot of psychology behind it, which is why I'm talking about that next week. But you really have to think about all the things that are pushed down and a lot of the political issues where um, the rich and the powerful, the elite, stand to lose a lot of their business and their money and their power when we start waking up and actually taking care of ourselves and our mental health. And queer people, for example, I think people who are LGBTQ plus, I just say queer because to me that's an all-encompassing word and it's easier than saying a bunch of initials. I think that queer people are able to balance masculine and feminine energies, which is really rare and valuable. It's not it's not that rare, but you have to understand what that really means. The universe as a whole, like I said in my previous video, is made up of opposites, and masculine and feminine energy are within everything. I mean, even vegetables, there are male and female, like a pepper, for instance, and a lot of people don't even know that. But do you have a male and female side of your body? Things like this. We have all sorts of masculine and feminine in the universe. It's everywhere. Everything contains it. And if you are able to balance those two energies in a healthy way and not like you're way more one than the other, you feed one a lot more than the other. And remember that masculine and feminine is not necessarily the idea that's been pushed on you by society. Don't think of masculine traits as, I don't know, barbecuing with the family, or feminine traits as cooking dinner before your husband gets home. A lot of these, like, old 50s ideas that people are aware of, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Masculine and feminine can mean a lot of things, but the one thing that I can tell you is that they complete each other. If you really want to look at what these things mean, you can look at animals and observe the way that they have their family dynamic, or even look in the past and just look at our instincts. Look at what our instincts tell us to do when with the societal influence completely cut out of the equation. And that's sort of what masculine and feminine energy is. People who are able to balance that are really connected to the universe and to spirit naturally. And they're a lot more likely to be healers and bring healing to people. And there's even science behind this. And yet, that would be a threat. Anything that connects us back to our roots and makes us healthier and moves us forward is a threat to the current system. So the people who are in charge of that system, the people who benefit from that system, are going to do everything in their power to keep that down. Whether they even realize they're doing it or not, their instincts say, you are a threat to my system. So they fight it. And I think a lot of them are fully aware of it. They may not have all this same information, but they know what they're doing. And it needs to stop, because there is so much information that's been pushed on us to oppress so many types of people who are here to bring healing to the world, and turn them into the minority, turn them into, compliant. You're to just stay out of the way and do what you're told, or you're wrong. Your very nature is a sin. It's against nature. The color of your skin, where you're from, all sorts of things. People are just so bitter and angry, and there are so many different reasons for all of this, And in general, it just comes from keeping people are miserable. And again, I'm talking about psychology. This is for next week. But people are really miserable. And think about how many things you get mad about on a daily basis that if you were perfectly happy and content and healthy in your life, you just would not give less than a shit. It wouldn't matter at all to you. You'd be totally fine. But you care because you're you're mad. You know that something is not right in your gut. You know that the world is just a mess and everything is a mess, and you just, it doesn't sit well with you, and you're not taking care of yourself and your health, and you just feel like a victim because you are, but you're still part of the universe and you're still supported by the universe. That's never going to go away. And the fact that we forget that is exactly what caused this problem in the first place. So we have to get back in touch with spirit. That's the only way this problem is going to be fixed. And those that continuously refuse to do so are just going to have to get left behind. And we're going to have to come up with a new system, a new education system, a new justice system, in the US and everywhere else in the world that takes all of these things into account and is genuinely coming from a place of empathy. Because the current system, it's basically, you don't follow my rules, you just get thrown into hell. Christianity is it's so woven into the US that it really, even the justice system resembles, that we even say in God we trust. There's just no getting away from this. Prison resembles hell. It's, you go here and maybe we'll let you out, but really what it is it's not correctional. It doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't help you grow or heal. It just tortures you and messes you up even further. And you might have to stay there for the rest of your life, which really is like being damned to hell. And, maybe you get into heaven, which is basically just the American dream, white picket fence, which is boring as hell, because that's what heaven is. Heaven is just nothing. It's like, okay, I did life, now give me the reward. And then what do? You join the kingdom of heaven, God's domain, and then you're like, well, what now? You hang out there for a couple million centuries, and then you're like, okay, but what else is there? And God's like, that's it. You just get to stay here forever and ever and ever and ever. And you're thinking, can't you give me something to do? Can't you maybe cancel me out and let me just stop being conscious and just absorb into the rest of the universe? I'd get bored in paradise forever. And we don't think about this. There's a lot of things we don't think about because it's just hammered into our heads since we're born. This is the truth. Believe this religion. Maybe you discovered religions. Maybe you went searching. You said, I want to know the truth, so I'm studying religions and I picked this one. Maybe you decided that there is no religion. I'm an atheist. There's no God. Everything is random and meaningless and it's all chaos. Maybe that's the path that you chose. But either way, it's a belief because it hasn't been laid out before you as irrefutable fact. You maybe picked out a couple facts, but it's not the whole picture. You can't have the whole picture because the universe is infinite and infinity cannot be contained. You can't zoom out far enough to see it all because you're always going to be within it. And that's the whole message I've been trying to say since last week even. So we have to really try to let go of the ego and holding on to my religion is the truth and I'm right and you're wrong. We got to just put that aside and be humble. So the system that we created is very, very messy. From the police to the schools to the justice system to the judges to all of the different parts of these systems to the business people, the advertising, the commercials, the way that this entire country, the US, is basically just one giant commercial. Everybody's trying to sell you something because everybody's trying to exploit you and make money off of you. And when you are aware of this, you realize that you're never really free and you're never really going to be happy. It's all just, they're just giving you toys to play with. All these political issues, I call them non-issues or nothing issues because that's what they are. They're just distractions. And when you try so hard to fight for these things, it's like trying to fix a printer in a burning office. Get the fire extinguisher. Get your priorities straight. And it doesn't matter if the printer works or not. Like, just, you're gonna all die anyway. It's not gonna work after the building burns down. You have to focus on what matters. If you are fighting for all these social issues, or if you're fighting for owning guns or protecting unborn babies or stopping the LGBT community and protecting your religion or whatever your mentality is, whichever side you're on, blue lives matter, all lives matter, whatever it is, I don't care. And I won't wear a mask, I won't get the vaccine, my freedom matters. I don't care if you are advocating for the vaccine, I don't care if you're against it. It doesn't matter, because you're not talking about capitalism, you're not talking about anything that is actually harming us. And until these issues get fixed, nothing is really going to get fixed. We're not fixing our education, we're not getting back in touch with spirit, and these issues don't really harm the system itself. And that's why these issues have gotten so much commercial attention, because they do no damage to the system, so the system will allow it to get attention. If it was dangerous to the system, it would be kept secret. You wouldn't hear too much about it, it wouldn't be allowed to go viral or get a lot of attention. And if it did, then we might actually have a chance of fixing this, because it's possible. There are people out there who care, and if enough of us come together, we can overpower it. Because where does power really come from? Power is an illusion. Power, you only ever have as much as you're given. We have to stop giving these people their power. What is money but paper? And what is a gun but a weapon to kill people? And what do you have when you're the only one left standing? What was the point? Now you no longer have power. You only have power when you have control over people's minds, when you can manipulate them. And if they turn on you, it doesn't matter if you kill them all. Unless you can manipulate them again, you no longer have power over them. You're just a scared, defenseless person shooting whoever attacks you, and eventually you're gonna end up dead. So we need to come together, we need to understand the collective power that we have, and we need to fight for ourselves and for each other, and stop being part of a system that's just damaging us. And because of how powerful and influential the US is, everywhere in the world it's just a different version of the same problem, which is people in power choosing themselves over the greater good. And I'm sure wherever you are in the world, you can think of a way that this could apply to your own country, your own society, because like I said, it's all connected now with technology. We all came here, we all built these societies before we had this technology, and because it's just in our nature, the same problem happened in different parts of the world. But some places did it well. Some places, like America before Christopher Columbus got here, for example, was not a bad place to be. It was really a pleasant place. It was beautiful. They were in touch with nature, they were being humble, they were being respectful, and they had a lot of interesting traditions that aren't necessarily the right way to live or the true way to live, but it was okay. It wasn't harmful, it was experimental, and everyone has their own experimental religion in different parts of the world, their way of connecting to spirit, and there's nothing wrong with that. Your way of connecting to spirit is no better than anyone else's, because it's all the same thing, and there's no right way to express your faith. As long as there's no fear behind it, as long as nobody's trying to control you and take away your personal connection, telling you that you need to go talk to a priest and you can't communicate with spirit yourself, things like that, look out for it, and make sure that you're always being mindful and coming from a place of love and empathy in everything that you do, because without that you have nothing. Remember that you are nothing without spirit, without the universe. There is no you. You are part of this. You can't separate from it and go your own way. You're still part of it whether you like it or not. You've just chosen to stop believing that. So you're wandering off with a blindfold, and you're gonna get hurt. So just be aware of this. We're gonna talk more about this next week and the different aspects of it. Thank you very much for watching, and in general, these videos should be under 40 minutes. I want to keep them under 30 minutes, but I'm going to think of 40 as my maximum. Excuse me. Just so you're aware and you're not like, oh, I hope some of these don't get really long. These first 3 are going to be longer because the topics I'm covering in these are really important. And then from here on out, I'll be covering more specific kind of little issues. So have a great day. I hope you had a great Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. And I hope you had a happy holiday anyway, whatever you celebrate. Hanukkah, it doesn't matter to me. Just enjoy your day and enjoy your life. See you next week.